Trump, of course, had several amazing individuals attend the speech, told their stories of heroism or suffering or both, and then standing up to be honoured, as is now de rigueur in all State of the Union speeches from both sides of politics, and has been since Ronald Reagan first started the custom back in the 80s. Yet, still, even with all of that, the Democrats sat mute, and the public noticed.
You couldn't pay me to be a liberal again. You couldn't do it. After watching that speech, I am convinced that Democrats hate America. The way that they didn't stand for Laken Riley's mother, the way that they didn't stand for that little boy who has brain cancer, the way that they didn't stand for that young man who got accepted into West Point. Are you with me on this? The way that they hate America.
Yes, it's dawning on sensible, common sense people throughout the United States that the left hate our way of life. The Democrats sat there holding up their silly little auctioneer's paddles that said things like false and Musk steals, and steadfastly refused to applaud or even smile at anything for 1 hour and 40 minutes. That in itself has now become a political story because, of course, it highlights the parlous state of the modern left in America and, by extension, throughout the West and here. Yes, the modern left quite literally stand for nothing.
And I have stopped all government censorship and brought back free speech in America. It's back.
There was much, much more within Donald Trump's speech, some great moments of humour, of national pride, individual achievements, as we mentioned before. Still, the Democrats sat on their hands and refused to applaud, even as Donald Trump taunted them more.
So Democrats sitting before me, for just this one night, why not join us in celebrating so many incredible wins for America? For the good of our nation, let's work together and let's truly make America great again.
We would be here all day if I took you through Donald Trump's achievements and the achievements of his administration, which are just extraordinary. Any one of which would be a political earthquake if attempted by our timid conservative politicians.
I terminated the ridiculous Green New Scam. I withdrew from the unfair Paris Climate Accord, which was costing us trillions of dollars. I withdrew from the corrupt World Health Organization, and I also withdrew from the anti-American UN Human Rights Council. We ended all of Biden's environmental restrictions that were making our country far less safe and totally unaffordable. And importantly, we ended the last administration's insane electric vehicle mandate, saving our auto workers and companies from economic destruction.
You have to ask yourself, if America saves billions of dollars, of taxpayer dollars, by scrapping all these insane climate measures, how much have both the coalition and Labor governments impoverished every single one of you and us here, every single Australian citizen, by relentlessly pursuing all these same idiotic net zero policies?
To unshackle our economy, I have directed that for every one new regulation, 10 old regulations must be eliminated.
Indeed, and here it is even worse. We have red tape, we have green tape, and now we have black tape where the woggle rainbow serpent gets to determine if you can concrete a weir or whatever on your own farm. But Trump was only just warming up, and suffice to say he carried on listing his achievements, many of them in the so-called culture wars that our politicians are so terrified to touch.
And we've ended weaponized government where, as an example, a sitting president is allowed to viciously prosecute his political opponent, like me. How did that work out? We've ended the tyranny of so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion policies all across the entire federal government and indeed the private sector and our military. And our country will be woke no longer. We have removed the poison of critical race theory from our public schools, and I signed an order making it the official policy of the United States government that there are only two genders, male and female. I also signed an executive order to ban men from playing in women's sports.
Trump also pointed out that he had renamed Mount McKinley Mount McKinley. Imagine if we had a leader brave enough to say, and I've renamed Uluru Ayers Rock. And you can climb it too. And what is the lesson out of all this? This is how you defeat the modern left. For decades now, the modern left have marched through our institutions, corrupted our youth, shredded and stomped all over our values and our traditions, and done it all by terrorizing people who question them with censorship, cancel culture, and the sneering, pious, fake morality of the woke left, where they have turned common sense on its head. So much so that so many people, particularly the young, have ended up confused and anxious, terrified. The world is going to end. Cyclones are going to destroy us. Bushfires because of farting cows and plastic straws. Desperate to adhere to the fake values and creeds of the modern communists, because that's what they are. Trump listed all the insane, wasteful programs that Elon Musk and Doge are dismantling, including the millions going on obscure and weird LGBT what's-it projects around the world, and even on transgender mice. Yes. You defeat the left by laughing at them, you defeat the left by exposing their inanity at every level, and you defeat the left by denigrating and then defunding them. Not by pandering to them. Since that speech, Trump has gone on to remove federal funding of $400 million from Columbia University because of the disgusting anti-Semitism, the disgusting Jew hatred that university permitted on their campuses all during last year, terrorizing their own Jewish students. I believe a coalition government should do exactly the same to Sydney Uni, to Melbourne, and to all the Australian campuses that were just as bad. But ultimately, what we were left with is a president, the leader of the free world, that finally has a great sense of humour.
$45 million for diversity, equity, and inclusion scholarships in Burma. $40 million to improve the social and economic inclusion of sedentary migrants. Nobody knows what that is. The media and our friends in the Democrat Party kept saying we needed new legislation. We must have legislation to secure the border. But it turned out that all we really needed was a new president.
And that's what we need here in Australia, folks. A new Prime Minister, determined to dismantle the left in all its hideous manifestations. And we need it urgently.